Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you join us for another episode of Careers in Sight. I'm your host, Derek Calvert, and we have a special guest here today, Makae Nack, an instructor at Dawson Community College, here to talk to us about agricultural careers. And so if you're interested in this field, we hope that this can bring you some insight into this field. So, Makae, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Makae Nack. I'm an instructor here at Dawson Community College in Glendive, Montana. I've been here, this is my first year actually teaching here, but it's been a lot of fun so far. I originally grew up on a little ranch in central Montana, so it's not too far from home, and it's very similar to what I grew up doing. Instead of doing it, I'm teaching it now, so that's neat.
That's great. That's so cool. Yeah, it's nice to see how you being able to stay close to home, or at least somewhat close to home, depending on where you're at, because Montana's really big, but it's so cool to be able to see that tonight. You're able to do what you're passionate about, that's really great. Well, we can jump right in. I know, any of our viewers today, if you have questions, please feel free to comment them. We'll try to get them answered. If you're watching live or afterwards, as this is going to be on our YouTube page as well, so you can check it out. Please comment with questions. But so, Makae, what does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's actually super cool. Every day is different, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. With college, it's structured a little bit different. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I have the same classes. And then Tuesday and Thursday have the same classes, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes are very different from Tuesday, Thursday. So every day I teach a different class and a different subject, and I actually teach 5 courses here. So each class throughout the day will be a very different subject. I mean, in the morning I start teaching about equine production, and by the end of the day I'm teaching about beef cattle reproduction, which are very different things, and everything in between. Every day is a different subject. I mean, one day I could talk about diseases in the horse. Next day I talk about, management practices, occupations within the equine industry, and same with reproduction. We start with just basic anatomy, and the next day we jump into a little bit of physiology, what's happening inside these animals. So every day is very, very different. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to agriculture, I know that there's just a vast amount of topics to cover, and not just agriculture, animal science, and all of the above. There's, I can imagine that you have a pretty, what's the word, a variety type day.
Yes, definitely.
Well, that's really cool, and I mean, I know there's so many reasons why people might choose, some of the different fields that they, go into. What helps someone, or what helped you, decide that a career in agriculture would be for you?
Yeah, so a career in agriculture for me was instilled in me when I was very young. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up on a ranch in central Montana. And so, I mean, working cows, moving cows, everything. I was there helping Dad, right by his side, tagging calves, building fence, the stuff that maybe wasn't the most fun. I was there helping, and I loved all of it. Unfortunately, I'm unable to go home to the ranch. Dad's still there working, so I was kind of booted out when I went to college. He said, find a different job before you come back. And so I did. I went to school at MSU, got a bachelor's in animal science, and then I got a master's in ruminant nutrition. I just couldn't get away from the cows. They always intrigued me. I always loved working with cows, learning about cows. They just intrigued me a lot. And then upon that realization that I couldn't go home, I started to look, where can I go that I could still talk about cows and agriculture, and still include ranching in that without having to go home. And this teaching opportunity actually came up. And it's really cool because a lot of these classes are very hands-on. I could take kids on field trips, and we can go out look at livestock in our livestock judging class. A lot of producers are really, really awesome with working with the school, so we can get hands-on experience, like working with sheep or pigs or cattle, or looking at horses, body condition scoring livestock. We have a calving class next semester. Kids are basically going to learn the basics of calving. We're going to contact producers and say, hey, these kids are learning about calving. Would you mind giving them a job? And a lot of producers are very, very, very great to work with. And they say, yep, come on out. We'll teach them. We got 200 heifers that need to calve out in the next month. Bring them out. We got lots of work for them to do. And that, in my opinion, is the best way to learn how to do stuff is, learn the basics, be safe about it, but dive right in, get out there and do it is a great way to learn. And that is a huge goal, or what's the word? Part kind of Dawson's mentality is learning through hands-on experience. The ag department anyways is very into learning through hands-on experience. In my opinion, and I can only speak for agriculture, the best way to learn, I guess I mentioned it before, is hands-on experience. And there's a lot of that I try to incorporate into my classes. And so that was super neat that I was able to bring in a lot of the ranching and stuff that I've done growing up, like livestock judging, handling livestock, working cows, calving, and then I could kind of melt it all together into a class and share my passion about agriculture and teach it in a hands-on way. I think it's super, super awesome and very unique to Montana.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so what I heard, a lot of what you say is being just doing it has given you that passion to it. Being able to, obviously growing up in it, working with your dad on the ranch, but then continuously doing it, even going to school and working with it. Bred that passion for you.
Yes. Yeah.
I do wonder. I know there's so many schools in Montana that have FFA and other organizations. But, in high school, did you participate in that when you were in school?
Yes, I did FFA. I did 4-H. I started when I was 8 or 9 years old. I can't remember, and was involved in both of them all throughout high school. I did a lot of livestock judging. That was what my favorite event. I actually competed collegiately in livestock judging at MSU. That was a lot of fun. Get to travel across the country, Denver Stock Show, Houston Stock Show, Louisville, Kansas City, the American Royal Stock Show, and you just get to see awesome livestock all over the country. It's an amazing experience, really. I have had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, wow. Hey, actually, I am completely honest. I didn't know that there was that a collegiate level for that. So
yeah.
Really cool.
And a lot of people don't. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. It's intense, just like high school, but it's a lot more fun because you get to travel a lot farther and see places like Texas. I'd never been to Texas prior to being on the team, and just a lot of cool experiences. Seeing a lot of cool cattle, judging Brahma cattle, not something you see in Montana. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so I know, obviously you enjoy it, enjoy your job and your career field. I guess what would you say is the most enjoyable part?
I really enjoy when I have conversations with students, and I see stuff kind of start to intrigue them, and they ask more questions. So, a couple conversations I've had with students is I have some students from Canada, and I talk about the differences in cattle size between Montana and up in central Canada. And there's going to be some size differences for cattle for a multitude of reasons, but just having this conversation, and it intrigues kids' interests. Lots of conversations have done this, but this one has stuck with me particularly. And just seeing these kids, the wheels start to turn in their heads with these conversations. They're starting to think for themselves, starting to generate questions for me, and ask a lot of questions is really exciting when these kids kind of get thinking for themselves, basically. And that's the goal of college, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. We well, it's a time to explore and
Yes.
gain insight. I really I think that is very true. That's really cool. I think I know one goal of this show and video is to really inspire students as well to to explore, to ask questions, to think
Mhm.
outside the box. So I do hope that even if you have questions that you're wanting to ask them, jump right in, comment below. We will get them answered. And so on the flip side, every job, every career has a challenging or a difficult part. What would you say is the most challenging part for you?
Yeah. For me, it's a small school. We have a limited number of staff and faculty members. So for me, I teach 5 classes by myself, which is quite a few classes to prep and prepare for and create lectures for and keep them all straight. And so the workload can be a little challenging at times. Another aspect that is a little frustrating for me is, and this goes in every industry, not everybody learns the same. And I may write something on the board that makes perfect sense to me, but not all my students will understand it the same. It may not make sense to them. And so I do try to emphasize to my students, if this does not make sense, please tell me, because it makes perfect sense to me. But like I said, not everybody learns the same, or it doesn't always make sense the same to each individual. So trying to find different ways to explain the same thing can be a little challenging at times.
Yeah, and that is definitely one of the hardest things for me to realize about it.
Yeah.
Even if I understand something pretty well, like just explaining it can be difficult. So it definitely takes the right person to be able to branch out for sure. And so with I guess that being kind of our last question, do you have any advice for students looking into agricultural career, whether it's animal science, or, you know, the broad variety of opportunities out there? Any advice for high school students?
Yeah, if you are interested in agriculture, find someone who's in agriculture and ask them as many questions as you possibly can. The best way to learn about agriculture in general is to find someone who's been in it their entire lives. I ask my dad more questions than he cares to answer, but he does an awesome job answering them, and he's taught me a lot about it. Find someone who, if you're wanting to learn about working cows, find someone who has cows and say, hey, can I come watch a couple times to learn what you do? If you don't mind explaining things to me, and then when I feel comfortable, can I jump in and help type of deal when you're working cattle or calving, or same thing with farming. Just ask as many questions as you can possibly think of. Why do they do stuff a certain way? Because everyone has a certain way of doing things and certain reasons behind it. And it's important to understand, I guess, the whole picture. You may not see everything when they're showing you. That's why you need to ask all the questions to understand it fully. And that's the biggest thing, is get involved as much as you can with people who are involved in the industry, whether that be a rancher, a farmer, a feed salesman, someone who works at the local co-op. Any of it is a great way to get involved.
Yeah, that's great advice. There's never too many questions that you can ask. There's not a bad question that you can ask.
No. Nope.
Especially as you're exploring, and getting to know, doing a job shadowing question. That's good advice for sure.
Yes.
Well, I'm not seeing any comments or questions, but I really do appreciate your time with us today, Makae. It's just been great. I know that agriculture is so huge in Montana, and we really do want to just broadcast this. And, really encourage, just as what you said, people to ask questions, explore, and hopefully you'll gain insight into future. So with that, we will talk to you all later and see you next time.